Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. Mom and I are super excited to have you on with us today, and we're really excited. We're welcoming back Amanda Sophia with us, and so we will have a conversation with her and see where it flows. We had some ideas in mind, but we're just going to let the wind take us where it takes us. So, welcome back, Amanda.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so honored. I love being in sacred space with you and also this beautiful community that you've created. So thank you.
Uh, well,
Thank
thank
you.
you. So, what have you been up to since the last time that we talked to?
Oh, well,
I know you got lots of things on the go, so.
yes, yeah. I mean, it's that divine flow, isn't it? Actually, it was interesting because last year, was the year of the dragon, and I just felt like I was riding on the dragon's wings. Like there was a retreat in California and one in Greece, and then I did one on the west coast of Ireland, and then really the first 6 months of 2025, we're that snake year, and the snake is on the ground, and I felt really like in the earth, like I was on the earth, and really actually doing what the snake does. I was really going through this intense rebirthing process, and those eclipses were helping a whole lot. No, it felt like there was lots of deaths, like really profoundly beautiful, some more painful, like deaths. Just parts of me that have to die. With this metamorphosis, if we're always willing to be authentic in our path, there's going to be layers of what comes up and wants to be healed and wants to be released and wants to transcend. So I feel this snake year has been such a gift for that. And then just all of a sudden, in this last, when the eclipse is actually, it's like 2 weeks after the eclipse, and then things start to open up. And then they say for the next 6 months, you really start to experience what you went through in the eclipses that start to align. And I say align versus manifest, right? Because it's something within you. And then all of a sudden, all these downloads have started happening, and I have actually a serpent um, retreat happening in Massachusetts, and then I'm going to be leading a retreat in Mount Shasta as
Wow.
well. Yeah, and then so lots has been unfolding and opening up, and it really is that representation of our birth and of the Celtic wheel, right? Because what happens? We're in the womb, we're in the darkness, right? And then in order for us to physically be born into this physical vessel, right, we have to go through that birth canal, and then we come out into the light. And then it's the same thing. 'Cause I know we're going to kind of talk about that, being a Celtic priestess, and I just live and embody the Celtic wheel. And our new year starts really around autumn equinox, Samhain, right? Samhain is where Halloween started, right? In Ireland, we call it Samhain, some call it Halloween. But if you look at the autumn equinox, right, the mother, the trees, they just all start to release and let go because they're like, okay, like I've already blossomed with this, and then this, I'm ready to release this. And then we move into Samhain, and we go into that very dark time of the year. But actually, the dark time of the year, the descent starts at the summer solstice. The day after the summer solstice, we go into that descent, right? Um,
Yeah.
but the Samhain, the days are getting shorter, and we're going into that darkness. So winter solstice, we're in that ultimate reflection, uh, allowing ourselves to die. And look at the trees. They stand there bare, naked, vulnerable for that whole time of the winter. Everything goes inwards. And, if we go back to our ancestors, like that was actually a really scary time for them because they didn't have fridges or electricity or anything. So it was like, okay, there was nothing growing. Their supplies were running low, right? And that's why the winter solstice, to pause and to honor the light, that's why that came about. And then if you think of Christianity, Christmas, okay, well, this is really depressing for people. So let's get Christmas, let's get food, let's get lights on Christmas trees, let's get presents, let's get, most importantly, family, community together. And let's sit around the fire, whether it's Christmas lights or a fireplace, to actually keep people's hope alive. So then as we move on to Imbolc, which is February 1st, now here in Ireland, that can be the coldest and darkest time of the year, right? But there is this promise, there's this little promise, right? Because we start to get these little snowdrops, these tiny little delicate, beautiful white flowers sprinkled all over the place. And there's this promise of the return of the light. There's this promise of the budding, right? You see these little tiny buds on the trees. And then by the time we get round to the spring equinox, the blossoming starts, the blossoming, the rebirth after a long, dark winter. And what I also like to say is we can have a winter at any time in our lives. We can have our winter solstice in the summer solstice, right? Because
Mhm.
if that's the energy that we need to be in, we need to honor that, right?
Yes.
Just like, you know, and so then, the Celtic wheel, when we have that beautiful blossoming of the spring equinox, then we move on to what we call Bealtaine, which happens on May 1st, known as May Day. And that is directly across from Samhain, Halloween, directly across the wheel. So we've got our two solstices, right? We've got our summer solstice and we've got our winter solstice. We've got our two equinoxes, spring and autumn. But then we have these what we call cross points. And that's where the veils are thin to the other worlds, Samhain and Bealtaine. And if you think about Samhain, if you think about Halloween, what do people dress up as? Witches. And it's like, and why? Because actually the veils are thin and we can connect with the other worlds. We can connect with them. And that's, if you look at everything, how it comes down from our ancestors, it's like, oh, witches and ghosts. Well, it's because that connection is there. So it's really interesting. You've got Samhain, which is the inward, like descent, darkness, right? And then you've got directly across from that Bealtaine, where and this also happens at the spring equinox. The sun is strong, it's in its sovereignty, the land is alive and it's fertile, and the creation energy is there and the creativity, right? But the veils are very thin at that time of Bealtaine.
Mhm.
And our ancestors, what they knew, they knew that we would forget. They knew that we would fall asleep. And they're like, we have to leave messages to awaken our future ancestors. We have to awaken them. So what our ancestors used to do on these points of Samhain and Bealtaine, Lunasa and Imbolc is they would have these huge festivals. And these festivals would last for 3 to 5 days.
Well,
And anything went, like anything, like Bealtaine, the land is fertile, people are awake, they're waking up. And, there's a lot of skin. People are a lot more bare in the summertime, like a lot more exposed. The amount of conception, marriages that would happen. But they would literally have these parties, festivals around bonfires, and anything went. So in some ways, they would say, well, we have this way of being that society has placed on us. Like we've got to be good girls and good boys and behave a certain way. But actually, there's this primal, wild aspect to who we are, right? And we need to find ways to express that and to channel that and to be that. So our ancestors knew we would just literally party like crazy for days and get it out of their system. And then everybody was cool with it. And then they would go back to cutting wood and carrying water.
yeah.
So I think that if we consciously co-create where we can be a true expression, but it really shouldn't be confined to 3 to 5 days a few times a year. Like if we can just live the most authentic life, and in yoga there's like no in the himsa, like do no harm, right? If we can live in that sovereign, liberated, like being free in who we are and expressing ourselves and authentically. I mean, that way people wouldn't be holding back on the truth, and then it comes out in the wrong way. And we know what happens then, because if people are in pain, they create more pain. When people are loved, they create more love. When people are free, it creates more of the expression and creative. So these points on the wheel, Mother Nature, Gaia, or as we say in Ireland, are always guiding us back home and always modeling to us, like autumn equinox, let go. You don't need to carry it all, let it go. And then it's okay to stand and reflect in the winter and go inwards and take that time and, what's happened throughout the year for you. And then it's okay to bud, and then it's okay to fully blossom, and it's okay to shine your light at the summer solstice and allow yourself to be free. So, and nothing is rigid. It's all cyclical. And what do we know for sure? For sure is change. And we know that the moon keeps going from full to new and waxing to waning, and the seasons are going to keep on blowing. And but it's like we've almost become addicted to, I need security. I need to know, like, this is not going to change. Even like in our relationships, like, you know, when I originally married my husband, it was like, oh, I thought it was going to be forever, but it wasn't, and then society allows us to believe that we're a failure because that marriage didn't last forever, um, and we know now that some things, beautiful people come into our lives for a reason, a season, a lifetime, and there's so much evolution that happens with that. So I think it's allowing ourselves to be free, to really understand that change, and that's why there's so many books, the Tao, written change, right? We're here in morning, but we're heading towards night. We're in night, we're heading towards morning. And there is this yin and yang. And if we can allow ourselves to be in this divine flow and this deep knowing of that, gosh, we just lend ourselves so much more peace. And like, and then if we all can know that and live that way, there isn't people trying to control, and there isn't really greed, because we all have this collective understanding. And just like we were saying, it's collaborative. We know that when we live from this higher heart, we're all connected. We're all connected. We all feel it all, right? Whether we're conscious of it or not.
Mhm.
Mm.
I find sometimes too when we have these changes that are happening in our life, like with whether it's a marriage falling apart or somebody leaving our life, whatever it is, I feel like we don't honor ourselves enough that we create that space to go through it. We just feel like we have to rush through that, right? It's like you don't get to do that grieving and
Yeah.
that shedding of the things that, you didn't need, but the lessons that maybe you learned with it. And I just think that too often we don't find that authenticity in it to just be.
It's so beautiful. Yeah, I so agree. And it's like the solstice, to pulse, to be in it. And I do this with even my children every day. Like my daughter, she's so on, she's like, Mom, I feel anxiety. I'm like, okay, well, let's just sit with that. Because she's like, I want to wriggle out of my body. I'm feeling it. I'm like, it's okay. And usually when we're feeling anxiety, it's because we're not letting ourselves feel what's underneath the anxiety, whether it is grief. Let's just be in it, and how does it feel in our body? And if we need to have a cry, or we need to, feel this, let's
Right.
feel it. And then, oh, that happened at school with her. Well, that sounded really hard. And then it just all starts to unravel. And then she takes a leap, and then she does a cartwheel off. You let herself process it, feel it. And emotions are just energy emotion. And like, you're so right. It's like we think we have to just get back up, and I'm like, an important part of the priestess path, of all of our path of consciousness, is and really embodying the embodiment of all. Like, there's a reason why we have all these emotions, right? Pain and grief and anger and rage, and like there's a reason. And they're just these beautiful barometers. Like, if I feel angry about something, it's like, okay, something's off, and I'm going to let myself feel it and feel the fire in my belly. I don't have to bring it out on somebody. I don't have to project it. Let me just sit with this. There's a reason why, with her, she had felt anxiety in that day. And it's like, and then you kind of let yourself sit with it, and emotions are just energy in motion. So a huge part of the ascension process is not just, oh, I'm all love and light. It's actually, no, there's all these other beautiful human emotions where we have to let ourselves grieve and go through. We got to go through that tunnel,
Yeah.
you know. And then we can have the freedom, and we can have the awareness of bringing the wisdom forth,
Hmm.
right?
Yes. I think if more people did that, though, like I think so often we just don't give ourselves that space to go through the emotion. And I think if more people did that and realized, oh, if I just sat with this and seen where, why it is and where it
Yeah.
can go and then release it, we would be probably not as, I know, nasty is the word that comes to my mind, but like to other people around us, right? Because yeah, because I think because we
Absolutely.
don't do that, we do project that out onto other people and then,
Absolutely.
create that conflict. So,
Yeah. And I would say really I have different practices. Like they're my tools. They're my tools to live in my higher heart, right? So I
yeah.
get up and usually I wake up around 4 a.m., right? And I go straight into my practices. And usually my first practice is just sitting with what is, the the muck and the like just sitting in it. And actually most days I have a cry and it feels amazing. It feels so good because it just feels so cleansing. And I just, and also just being an empath and we like I'm actually really sovereign in my own energy, but with so much going on in the world, and I work with so many clients that share so much, and so many of us are holding so much space, right, for others that you kind of got to let it trickle through. You got to kind of, it's like you brush your teeth, you know, you have your shower every day. Well, I work on, or wouldn't even say work. I bring a level of presence and compassion emotionally, mentally, energetically, spiritually, physically, right, on all the levels. So I just get up and I just sit. I just sit with my body. Where do I feel it in my body? What is it that's up today? Oh, is there a little bit of forgiveness, or is there somewhere like that I was in this past day or few that I didn't feel like I was my best self? But actually, I'm going to meet that part of myself with love and compassion, because me taking out the stick and being like, can't believe you did that, like that actually repeats that, right? So instead, I've really like it's like kind of that reparenting process where we like whether we got it or not. Like if we got it as a child, then beautiful. It's probably more natural. And if you didn't get it as a child, you learn it. So how would you like to be treated when you fell or hurt your knee or somebody was unkind to you? Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. That sounds like it was really hard. And so now it's just like I hold myself like that. Oh, that was really hard, but it's so powerful. We be our own mother. And then there's the father, right? Of like, the mother is the nurturing and the understanding. And of course, a father can be that way. Absolutely. But then there's a father, okay, so I'm really sorry to hear that happened. And, we give ourselves the love and the understanding, the acceptance, and, and I'm going to try to do better. I'm really consciously going to weave this in and do better. But then the divine masculine, shall we say, the yang. Okay, now where's the action? Like how, so there's this beautiful way that we can parent ourselves. And it isn't spoken enough, right? About these processes that we need to sit through and allow whatever. And this could all happen in a matter of 3 to 5 minutes. And then it's like, yeah, I'm ready to go my day, And then like, so whatever the practice in the day, sometimes I just love to get up and the moon is out or out under the stars. I just, I grow veggies and I just do it when I'm out gardening or I want to meditate, or there's just moving it out, dancing it out of your body, shaking it out of your body, crying it out. And I do feel that's where the somatic work is so powerful, like just letting yourself feel it in your bodies. And that's why people try to be overly busy nowadays, even like the summer solstice. And that's, I think, why our ancestors created the solstice, the pause, because things are so much busier at this time of the year. Like winter, people do slow down, other than like at the holidays, sometimes it's sped up, right? But people seem to like the kids had all their end of the year stuff, their plays and their performances, their graduations. And I felt like it was a very important role for me to hold that level of presence amongst certain things, the things that we just kind of really needed to do as part of the end of the year, right? But
Mhm.
it's like bringing those points of stillness in between. So whatever that looks like in your life. And the thing is you're the only one that can set your own boundaries for yourself. You're the only one that can reparent yourself. If you're looking for it in your lover, or you're looking for it from your child, or you're looking for it from the wrong people, it's going to create codependent, unhealthy relationships,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But when we give that to ourselves, we emanate love, we emanate compassion, we emanate that worthiness because we are treating ourselves that way. And in some ways, what we're doing is we're showing people this is the manual of how to treat me
Hmm.
because I got this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and that's so true. And I find like a lot of times, like when we start feeling, oh, this was really terrible thing happened, or I acted this way out in anger, or however, we berate ourselves so much and we don't just say, oh, wow, that happened. I wonder why I acted that way or why I felt that way and have a good cry. And then I think when we cry, we feel so vulnerable and we don't want to, a lot of people don't want to do that release of the crying because you feel vulnerable and naked and like, oh, so much can get in, but it's so healthy to just release it because I know like even last night I was up by myself and I was sitting outside and I had a little bit of a cry and I was like, okay, stop that. And I'm like, no, just let it go and just be, right? Because this is obviously what I need to do to move forward with
Yeah,
things.
you're
And
releasing something. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
So I think what you're saying is brilliant
yeah,
because it is good to have a practice that we do.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. That's so
Yeah.
beautiful. I think when you share that, like it gives permission to others, it is okay to cry because, maybe they were told that wasn't okay as a child. Maybe somebody, or even now as an adult, they're told that. So it's like, again, we have to, first of all, be giving whatever it is to ourselves. Because if we're searching for it outside of ourselves, approval,
Mhm.
worthiness, worthy to be loved, any of the things, it has to come from here. And then, it's like magic. It's like we do the work here, and then we're like, what's going on? How are all these people in my life changing? What's going on here? But really, it's you shifting and how you show up for yourself. And then there's a perspective, but I feel like it goes way beyond that because everybody's a mirror, right? So if we're shifting our own way that we look in our own mirror, well, then of course it's going to shift so much in our lives. And it's like stepping into the boundaries, the worthiness, and then, like the absolute clarity in our lives of moving forward and knowing what we deserve.
mm,
And
that's true.
the sovereignty and speaking our truth and speaking things aloud. But once we've done the work, we can come from sovereignty, we can come from truth, from the vessel of love.
Mhm.
Because that's how we are heard. If we come from anchor with the truth, it just does not give the same effect.
That's
So we
true.
know and we process what is ours to process. So we're not projecting out on others, right? Or blaming, and it doesn't get us anywhere, right? We're owning our own accountability because we're all on a journey. We're all on a journey to evolve. And I really actually believe we're all just guiding each other home. We're all just guiding each other home. And everybody comes in with their unique gifts and their unique codes, like this retreat that I received this whole download from Mount Shasta. And all the beloveds, I always just say, Spirit, okay, got the download, cool. I'm happy to do this. It's like a soul mission. I'm delighted to do it. Okay. I'm so clear. And then I just step back. It's like I bow and I surrender and I say, okay, I'm going to step back. And I just love witnessing all the alchemy that happens and all the beloveds that come in because each one of you, each one of us carry unique codes. And then I just go, oh, would you look at this masterpiece that's been created that I've stepped back out of the way, and then we all come together collectively with that intention to raise consciousness, to bring healing on the planet, right? Which we're all here, we're guiding each other home. And that's just like you both. You're doing that every day with the work that you're doing, the light and the knowledge and the wisdom that you're sharing, the space that you're holding, the communities that you create.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
I'll do it again.
it's nice to surrender like that because we've found that too. Because often if you're trying to force it, it's like mom went through a time where she was about her readings, and you can maybe talk about
No,
that.
you go ahead.
But her readings, like she wasn't getting them, they weren't coming in, and so then she's like, "What's
And are
going
these,
on?"
what readings are these?
Like intuitive readings. So yeah,
Oh,
so she was doing that, and then all of a sudden she's like, well, I don't know. You know what? When it's meant to be, it's going to be.
Yeah, that's true. And then they all start coming again. So it's like Spirit says, you need a rest. You need to get that all aligned again and get yourself organized because your mind's been too scattered or whatever the case may be, right? And then it comes back to you and you go, okay, here it is. Here it is. It's going to be okay again.
So I loved when you said that because that's what it made me think of too, is right when we just surrender. And it is funny how things just come into alignment and the people that are put on your path to make things happen when they're supposed to happen. It's
absolutely. I always say to people when I'm just giggling to myself, I'm like, you just can't make this stuff up. You just can't. It's just like we can be a conscious, compassionate witness to our own path and witness that in the paths of our beloveds and clients and just beloveds that we're sharing this with, and we just can step back and witness the glory and the alchemy and the magic that unfolds when we are coming from this authentic higher heart and with that intention. So
Mhm. So what would you say to people that are struggling to come from a good heart space where, we are being authentic with ourselves and we're allowing ourselves to sort of live in that moment? Like, how would you suggest to people to do that and to be able to just surrender to the moment?
yes, well, I think first of all, if we've been doing things one way, like if we don't speak our truth and we kind of shut ourselves down, right? I always kind of think of it this way, it's a bit of a scale, right? At first, like it's like I don't speak my truth, I don't dare open my mouth, like I was, whether you're shut down, past lives, or it's this, epigenetic that's come through the ancestors, or just as a child, you whether it's teachers or who knows, right? Parents. So there's this, I don't dare because it's not safe. And like I will be shut down, right? And then there's like, oh, but I could share, I could possibly share. And so then what happens is you kind of open up that ability. And I notice that people tend to kind of go the other way where they're just, they can't stop. They're just sharing everywhere they go. And I actually think that's okay. That's all right. I mean, we do our best not to be like, if we're going to speak our truth, we can do it in like I always say to my children, to the three gates, right? Is it kind? Is it necessary? And is it true? Right? Is it those three things, right? Because otherwise, is it going to be constructive here? So I find that when we're finding a new way, we almost flip the other side of the scales. And then it's like,
Slowly coming back.
back to the equilibrium, which feels really good because it comes from this, it's over the heart, right? It comes from this heart space. It comes from this, the solar plexus, this full dominion of power. It's not a power that's misused. It's just this birthright that we speak our truth. And it goes through those gateways as well. So I think the more that we do that, it creates, obviously, as we know, new pathways in the brain. It creates new habits. And when people are trying to shift things, I always say, like, okay, if you've always taken a left, I want you to start taking the right. I want you to start like changing the way you're doing things, um and there is like that conscious expansion that happens, and there's a little bit of conscious contraction, and then there's conscious expansion. And I think knowing that, it provides us a lot more compassion and peace for ourselves. So when we see ourselves, like usually it's like as we move on this path of awakening and healing, sometimes we take maybe 3 or 4 or 5 steps forward, and then sometimes you may take 2 back, but you're still 3 forward. And so it's been okay with that, and knowing that there is, as we've said already, the full and the new moon. And so there is sometimes when we're in our fullness. And then there's sometimes, that we want to curl up. And we do need to curl up. And we do need to take that winter solstice in that middle of the month. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And women and men go through cycles. Theirs is different than ours, but we go with the moon every 28 days. And whether we're still menstruating or not, we still are going through those cycles, right? They're still happening.
Yeah.
And there is that, I speak to this a lot, like actually I live by all as many of the rhythms and cycles of nature, of our own body. And, we have the conscious expansion at, we're ovulating where we feel like we're totally ourselves. And then there's the flow where actually we are meant to have that winter solstice. We are meant to slow down. And you can kind of like start to structure your month that. So when there's those days that you need to take slow, where you're not going to schedule your interviews. You're not going to schedule really important big things. Like you do your best, you're not going to lead a 3-day retreat. You do your best, not always, possible, but to kind of look at that, because that lends a whole nother level of self-compassion. But beyond self-compassion, it's that path of self-realization, knowing ourselves, honoring ourselves, not like, that's the old patriarchic way, forcing and pushing, instead of listening. And, this is what we talk about with the sacred union, right? The divine feminine, right, is that gentle listening, that intuitive approach. It's the moon. And then we've got like the divine masculine, it's the sun, it's action, it's structure. But what we need to do is we need to weave those together, right? So we can have conscious movement and progression in our lives, and move away from that old paradigm of pushing and forcing and hustling. And instead, we can come from work with the quantum fields, or we can work with the quantum fields, and we can align versus that old style of hustling, right? And we can, it's like, like we've been talking about all along, we do the inner work, right? We do the inner work. Because whether it's a business that you're working with or a personal, on a personal journey, if there's any kind of challenges in our life, it's like, okay, let's look in here, because what is it really? And
Right.
let's work from this place and create
Mhm.
change.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely does. I think inner work is such a good thing to do because it really does open ourselves up and, honoring ourselves, like if we need time to do different things or, we were just having a conversation about that this morning is like I want to get a little bit healthier and I want to make some time and it's like, okay, so instead of doing the laundry, which I can do later,
Mhm.
use that time to go for a walk.
Mm.
Those kind of things, right? So we're really making the priority of ourselves first, and then all that other stuff is going to fall back into line when it does. And, I think it's just really important. And that was some of my things that I was thinking about last night. Like, how do I make myself a priority to get onto my journey of where I want to be
Yeah.
and be able to surrender fully,
Yeah.
right? So, I
Uh,
think what you're saying is so true.
Yeah, because you're always worried about falling behind and all that kind of stuff. And really, it's not that important to fall behind unless it's your job or something. But at home, it's sort of like I can take this time and align myself, right? And that's what it is aligning yourself because you're saying to yourself, whoa, I just need to get back on track here. And then everything in the day is going to go real nice and smooth. So, and we forget to do it. And sometimes it's just 5 minutes.
Absolutely. And I love everything that you both say. Like, I
Yeah.
completely agree. And the dishes are always going to be there. The laundry is always there. And
Yeah.
even when you have laundry, there's going to be more laundry. So it's like, you prioritize, because I know that I am going to be a better version of me. I'm going to be a better mother. I'm going to be a better partner, a better friend. It's not better, but like I know I'm going to be more
I
present.
Hmm.
Yeah. If I, so, again, whether it's eating the foods that nourish me that might take a little bit longer, to prepare, or whether it's getting out for the walk, or I love to move my body, and whether it's walking, I love to do weights. I love to do weights. I love to feel strong, right? And
Yes.
so like those things are gonna be there. So I just tune in. What do I need? And the laundry can happen after, because
Mhm.
there'll be more laundry after that laundry. You know, and then I think there's this huge part of, and I think this is such a beautiful part that I really consciously weave into my day, is how life is just ceremonial now, right? Um, Even just with the simple things. So spending time with my children, or out gardening, or actually just chopping vegetables, or taking a shower, or brushing our teeth. Like, yes, like I love ceremony, and I love, going to the sacred sites, or doing my own ceremony, or whatever. But I'm talking about the ceremony of life, the presence of having a conversation with beautiful women like you, um, it's just like bringing that level of consciousness and that sacredness. We sit around, we have a meal together, and we talk about what we're grateful for, and how our day went, and like at that level, like that just lights me up. But every part of our day, when we bring that in, because we know that wherever we bring our attention is where the energy goes, right?
Mhm.
So really that level of presence brings gratitude, right? Just the gratitude for every moment, like, wow, how blessed am I to have these fresh vegetables growing, or, I have a couple of local organic farmers, amazing. I'm just so grateful for them. Or even just, I've got this running water, and it comes from the well here that comes from the mountain, or, just having running water, and just bringing that level of awareness and ceremonial. It's not like, oh, I get up in the morning and I have a meditation, that's my spiritual time. No, there's nothing separate. We are spiritual beings
Mhm.
having this embodied human experience. So as far as I'm concerned, everything is sacred. Everyone is sacred, and everything is sacred. And it's like bringing that level of presence. And I don't do it all the time, every day. But when I fall out of it, I can bring myself back into it. Whether it's using light language, or, which my whole family uses, both my children use it, and like we're sometimes not speaking in English, just in frequency.
Well, we definitely agree with you, because I think that's the whole thing, is about being present in the situation. Because
Yeah.
when you're multitasking or doing too many things. I mean, sometimes that has to be, but I think for the most part, when we're like eating or cooking, like you're saying, right? Just being present in that and just enjoying it to the fullest. Like, I love cooking, especially if you're making like a fresh salad or
Mhm.
something like that. And like, I'm always smelling the tomatoes and right?
Love
Just
that.
really living in that moment. And I think so many of us just rush through it and don't appreciate, just like you were saying, you know, how we got running water and how we got these fresh vegetables. And, you know, I think it's a wonderful thing. So we totally agree with you on that one.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally.
And it's also you both consciously wanting to have these conversations, because I know, and I've listened to your podcast and with other people, like that level of presence that you bring in carries throughout the entire interview, and you are consciously choosing to have these level of presence conversations with everybody that you comes across your path, right?
Well,
So
thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
we enjoy it. And, you know, we've met so many wonderful people like yourself. And it's funny because I know for me, and I think I can speak for you on this, it's like we interview people that we don't know. And by the end of the interview, we're like, they're like a friend now. They're part of my pack, right?
Yeah.
So we just have that heart connection, like to you and to some of our other guests that we've done, because there's just so much information out there to share and to be able to share with people. And that's what we love about this part of our
And
lives.
learning, we're learning, and to be learning, you have to be present, right? In order to take the information in. So we're learning all the time. You can never get enough information, and it doesn't matter what it's about. It's always more good things that are coming to you to put you on a different level of understanding,
Mm,
and
Mhm.
that makes you present, right?
mm. I love that. So beautiful. And you can feel the joy from the pair of you. It's oozing out of every cell.
Well, thanks. Yes, we do really love this. This is our favorite thing, especially when we can be in the same room
Yeah.
doing it, and it's just
Yeah.
it's beautiful, like right. And I think we both feel so grateful. Like I get to do it with my mom, and she gets to do it with her daughter. So there's that connection too.
And,
That
and we catch up. It's time to catch up too, right? Even though we catch up a bit when we're two different places, but when we're together, it just seems like the harmony comes in and it sets the space and the pace of what we
yeah.
need to do and how we need to do it. And that's great. It
Mhm.
is.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And I'm so grateful to be back here with you both. And
Yes.
each I know, we don't know, do we do Feng Shui or the Celtic Wheel?
We
And I
have
don't even
to.
really touch much of the magic in Ireland because it's such a
Mm.
magical place. But I feel like with the conversation and what needed to come through comes through, right?
Do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
We agree with that.
And I love listening to your accent too. It's so cool.
Yes, it just keeps embracing my I need to go to Ireland. I
Me
need to
too.
go back.
Well, I'm booking. Yeah, I've been leading retreats, spiritual retreats around Ireland, and we have over 40,000 sacred sites between our standing stones, our cairns, our fairy glens, our sacred wells. Over 40,000, and all these sacred sites are honored, and people come and do ceremonies, so they're alive. Like they're all portals. And so anyway, my next retreat is going to be over the 5-5 portal of 2026.
Oh, nice.
Mark your calendar.
Nice. Better write
Um,
that down. Better write that down.
yeah, we're going to some incredible, like one of my, I mean, I could tell you millions of my favorite sites, but one of my favorite sites in Ireland is called Loughcrew. It's in County Meath. And you basically enter in this beautiful ancient metal gate, and there's this hawthorn tree to greet you. And the hawthorn trees are healing tree, but they're also the trees, the gateways to the other world. And you'll see them a lot of the time. And in spring, they have these incredible blossoms, but you'll see, people come and tie things of people that need healing that can't even make it to the tree. And a lot of the time, the hawthorn trees are around the sacred wells. But when you arrive into Loughcrew, you're greeted by this incredible hawthorn, and then you start the pilgrimage, the ascent up the hill. And this is just a gentle little hill that you go up. Now, some people may make fun of me saying it's a gentle little hill, but there's one hill. And then this site is over 6,000 years old. It's older than the pyramids in Egypt. And it's the hill they call the hill of the Kaliak, which is the goddess of wisdom, the ancient goddess, and the crone goddess of Ireland, but also the goddess Morrigan. And you'll always see her. She's the one with the sword, so she's the goddess of sovereignty, the goddess of integrity. Some history books have it incorrect. They call her the war goddess, but it's really just because she is the advocate of sovereignty and fairness, right?
Nice.
So anyway, they're the main goddesses, but the energy. So you walk up and there's this cairn there, and then there's 5 stone circles, an initiation chamber, an ancestral chamber, and then there is a 6,000-year-old priestess throne.
Oh, wow.
And when you're on this throne, you can literally see 80% of Ireland because there's a 360 view all the way around. And on a clear day, you can see up to 80% of Ireland. This
Wow.
Wow.
power and
That's
the
cool.
magic. And then there's just this ley line, this energy line that runs from the gate of the cairn all the way down. And you can see it as this ley line of energy line that like runs all across the hills, and it lines up. It goes all the way to because this site is very much so connected with the pyramids in Egypt, but it's also connected with the Hill of Tara, which I'm sure you've heard about. It's linked in with Newgrange, like all these sites, Newgrange, which is, so well known, but really over visited. And so they're all linked in this one area, and there's nows and dows, and there's all these incredibly powerful sacred sites all within like a couple of miles of each other.
Wow.
And so that's just one of the sites we're going to go to. There you go. Little
There you
taste.
go. There, yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, can you tell everybody where to find you, where to find out about your retreats, these kind
Yeah.
of
Yes. My website is Join Amanda Sophia. and that's where you learn about I do courses on light language, activating your light language, and you learn about all the retreats and everything that I hold. And then I also have another website, the International Feng Shui School, where I teach all about working with the land, geomancy, land healing. It's another big body of work that I've been doing for over 25 years. And they're all connected. So my priestess work of working with the land, the ascension work of bringing the codes down in through the great earth lines, it's all connected. And then, you know, my Feng Shui Master certification, which I've been teaching for over 25 years. And it's all about that sacred temple, our home, our vessel, you know, that we all deserve to have this sacred space that we can
Yes,
thrive.
you.
Wonderful. Well, we really love having you on with us. If you had a final word to say to all of our followers, what would it be?
I think it's coming back around to what's really, really present for me right now is compassion. Really, really, because I feel like that's so needed in the world right now.
Yeah.
And first place, if we just bring it to ourselves, and even if you have something like where it's you just place your hand on your heart, or maybe it's just even you hold your own hand or you touch your own face, you know, and just like it's like constantly coming back home to ourselves, because the day presents itself in lots of different ways, things that we experience. But it's just this, just take a second and if you close your eyes and just breathe, and it's just like come home to yourself, come home to yourself, compassion. And it's just like feeling your warm hand on your heart. And it's just offering yourself that, just offering yourself that. And I feel like if we can all weave that into our day, oh, we're going to have world peace before we know it. Can you imagine all the leaders in the world, this level of compassion and presence? We would, that's what it would be.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us and
You are a
with our
sweetheart.
followers.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining us again. We always love sharing space with you, and we hope you'll come back on again because we know you have so much
Knowledge.
and wisdom to share with everybody that, you know, we truly feel it's going to live and help people live in a more authentic life, which is also our mission. So thank you so much for sharing
Thank
space
you
with
for
us.
having me. Oh, sending so much love. Thank you so much.
Right.
All right. And
Yeah.
everyone else, we will see you the next time.